Hey folks, welcome back. The BYD Song looks stunning in these pictures. So what is it? Where can you buy it? When can you buy it? How much will you pay when you do want to buy it? I'll go over all of that today and try to give you some clarity as well on why you would want it over some other BYD vehicles, of which there are a few, and why you would want one over a Tesla. I'm Ben Alexander and I make videos every single day about EV news from around the world, so stick around until the end and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Also, just quickly, thank you very much again to the people that support me on YouTube memberships, Patreon, or buy me a coffee. And the easiest way to help is just by subscribing or pressing the like button. There are a lot of comments on my videos about the political state of the world right now, geopolitics, but I try not to get into that. That's not really what I want to do. I don't mind talking briefly about politics locally or local governments or some of the injustices going on. My job here, though, is really to just talk about what EVs are coming to the market, comparing them to existing models for sale, for example, and to talk about what's going on inside the minds maybe of the people that run the companies, for example, BYD. It has to be said that BYD are making some of the world's best EVs. So are Tesla, so are MG, so are the companies that I often talk about other than those. But I talk about other companies that maybe you've not heard about too, and that's why I love making these videos every single day, because I get to spend all day from waking up just researching, calling people, emailing people, emailing companies to come up with this content for you all every day, all day. So I do occasionally talk about local governments, but I do try to only really highlight details that often don't get enough light shone on them. So while we all patiently wait for EVs that most of us can actually afford, the BYD Seagull, for example, which I'm dubbing the Honda Jazz or Honda Fit of the EV world because it kind of looks similar and it's kind of affordable. There's huge amounts going on with other areas of the EV world, particular the SUV market. So for example, BYD's answer to the Tesla Model Y, the BYD Song, it's stunning and it's roughly the same size. It's called the BYD Song, but then the next word after Song is the important word, I think. So there is the Song Plus, the Song Pro, Song L, Song Max, for example. So just a heads up if you're going to do some research on them. It's got all the sort of specs that you want to see. A single motor option with 308 horsepower, a dual motor option, 510 horsepower, a battery built into the frame of the car. It's the BYD call it the CTB design, cell to body. Basically, it's kind of what the Tesla does now in the Model Y. The top speed is limited to 120 miles per hour or 201 kilometers per hour. It's expected to be priced at around 38,000 euros for the cheapest model and be released in the last quarter of this year. 38,000 euro as well is about 64,000 Aussie dollars or 32,600 British pounds. Battery options should be, as far as we can see from applications that are pending, 79 kilowatt hour to 87 kilowatt hour, depending on which version you choose. So both really awesome, really, really big. BYD has set an official objective to achieve this year sales of 3 million, what they call NEVs, new energy vehicles, within this year. So 3 million. So it's optimistic. They have an even more optimistic goal to sell 3.6 million units. BYD sold over 1.5 million of these NEVs from January until the end of July. So they've done really well, and they had delivered about 250,000 vehicles up to the end of July. So they're smashing things out of the park, so to speak. Remember that in Queensland as well, in Australia, rebates won't likely be there by the end of the year. The New South Wales rebate will most likely be cancelled soon. That's been in the media. And Victoria, well, you know the story. So it is going to be a global release. So it's going to be China first because it's made in China. and then wherever else in the world they deem priority. Not the US, obviously, because Trump's tariffs are 27%, as I mentioned before, so they get taxed to crap over there, don't they? Even though I get comments on most of my videos as well saying BYD cars would be awesome to have in the US. This is just what we need, is the sort of comment that I read a lot of. It's just not happening until something changes. It's just never going to be viable. Nobody will import them with a 27% extra tax on them like that, because it will just cost you a fortune to even buy it when it does arrive. It will almost certainly come to Australia, that's pretty obvious, and the UK, but Australia is most likely where it will do the best, because they love big cars in Australia, and also the roads are much more American in size. They're much bigger typically, and in the UK, not so much. Should you get a Tesla or a BYD? I guess the question to those of you that aren't biased, either will be fine. I guess it's about understanding what it is you're buying, just knowing what it is and how it was tested and where it excels, where it doesn't excel, and where I suppose you're buying it. So if you're in Norway, for example, or Sweden, and there are hardly any BYDs, but loads of Teslas, I would argue a Tesla is best, because there will be, Teslas are really well tested in the cold, and the car's parts market, the used car market, will be far better if there is just, lots and lots of the cars that you're thinking about buying. But in Australia, I would say either would be fine. Most EVs these days are holding their value really, really well, so don't be afraid to buy one, but just don't expect rebates to stick around for long, because, especially in Australia, they come and go like a yo-yo, and it's ridiculous. This is the chance for your governments to actually do something useful, I think, with the money that you pay them, because typically rich people and governments with plenty of money are quite, I'd say, crap at spending money wisely, especially when it isn't their money. So take, for example, the quarantine facility in Queensland that cost Queenslanders $210 million, or the Victorian government recently announcing they're going to pay $380 million or something around that figure to cancel the Commonwealth Games, I think it was. I know there are other things at play, but you have to agree, they aren't serving you very well, are they? So especially in Queensland, where they find motorists, 1,000 motorists a day get caught without the cameras. That's just speeding with radar guns, whilst hiding behind trees like it's a children's game of cat and mouse. So I just think it's ridiculous. The Queensland government, known locally as the police state, is on target to collect $500 million from cameras this year, which is up by $200 million from last year. So we have the data to show that roads aren't getting safer over the last 30 years, but they are collecting millions more dollars from us in fines. So it is okay for people to pressure the government, this is my point, about spending their money on more positive things, because they have it in boatloads, and of course they will never admit that they have huge amounts of money. They will always say that they're tight and there are huge budgets and they're stressed about money, but they definitely have a lot of money. They are more than happy for you to be breathing in the diesel particulates for longer in a country full of utes puffing out clouds of literal black particulate dusts, which, by the way, is Australia's second leading cause of cancer. So it's not great. It is all right to stress to the local government. Just tweet them, email them, write them an actual letter. Just tell them you want rebates, or you're thinking about moving to another state. Just do what it is. If a lot of people do this stuff, you can make a difference. And I don't think people should be wanting to have 18-year-olds driving utes thrashing through the traffic lights for the next 20 years, because it's really, really bad for our health to be breathing in that rubbish. So let's try and catch up with the rest of the world. I think in Australia we're kind of lagging behind, even though sales have been doing a huge amount better in this last year than they ever have been. So we're still behind though. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button for me so that YouTube know that people are enjoying it, and subscribe for more daily videos about electric vehicles. And I hope it wasn't too depressing at the end. I just like to highlight these little figures and talk a little bit about the damage that diesels are causing. It's not good. I think in the UK, in the 2000s, from 2001 to 2010, the government really went crazy, saying diesels are the future, they're really efficient, they're really good. And then that backfired, because now we know it's incredibly bad for people's health when they're driving outside people's houses and the dust just flies around. So I hope that's okay with you. I won't keep chirping on about that in my future videos.